It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, the wait for weight loss jabs on the NHS. A Sky News investigation finds thousands of people with severe obesity are being denied access to treatment because of delays in the rollout of the weight loss drug Wegovy.
Currently, our waiting list is around 2 years, and we are unable to offer medication. It's all shocking, isn't it? I just wonder how many other people are getting this.
Coming up, we'll ask why it is so difficult to get this medication on the NHS. Also ahead, a court hears how the father of Sara Sharif called the police and told them he killed the 10-year-old before fleeing to Pakistan. I'll speak to Figen Murray, whose son Martyn was killed in the Manchester Arena bombing, as a law in his name aimed at improving security measures in public venues returns for its second reading in Parliament. And Olympian Gail Ems will tell us all about the lost Lionesses, the England women's football team shunned for decades for taking part in the first Women's World Cup. All that to come and much more on the UK Tonight. Well, we start this evening with a Sky News investigation that has found thousands of people with severe obesity are being denied access to effective treatment because the NHS rollout of the weight loss jab Wegovy is happening far more slowly than originally planned. Just 800 people had been prescribed the drug by the end of April, despite estimates by the Department of Health that more than 13,000 patients should be taking it. Access to the jab has been described as a postcode lottery, as our science and medical correspondent Thomas Moore reports.
Take out your needle.
A weekly jab and the pounds just fall away.
That is it. 9 times out of 10, I don't even finish what I've got.
The weight loss drugs available to those who can afford to pay, but out of reach for most on the NHS.
We are unable to offer medication.
Yet doctors know the drugs save lives.
We know we have something that we can offer them, but are unable to offer it to everyone who could benefit from it.
Ozempic, Wegovy and now Mounjaro, a revolution in the treatment of obesity. So why the wait for the weight loss drugs?
It's just a slow, painful process. But I get to see my family all the way up the stairs, which helps make it a bit more bearable.
For Ken, every step is painful. He needs a double knee replacement, but at 25 stone, he's considered too high risk to have surgery.
And you can see I'm huffing and puffing just with coming up that.
He's been told to lose 5 stone to have the operation, but that's difficult in his condition.
I hate the fact that I can't even go for a walk with my grandkids now. I've made lifestyle changes. I eat sensibly. I don't eat big, crazy meals. I think the biggest issue is my knees are kind of wrecked now, and a diet doesn't really work if you don't balance it with sensible exercise.
His last hope was the weight loss drug Wegovy, the only way he'd slim down enough to get his knees fixed and his old life back.
So this is the actual referral form.
The GP confirmed he was eligible and referred him to the specialist hospital clinic.
The thing that really got me excited was the clients whose surgery is dependent on weight loss, and that was ticked. I thought that would be opening the door to let me get access to the drug.
Then back came a text.
Currently, our waiting list is around 2 years, and we are unable to offer medication. If you no longer want this referral, please contact us. It's all shocking, isn't it? I just wonder how many other people are getting this.
Wegovy and its identical twin Ozempic have become pharmaceutical gold. Sales so high that their Danish manufacturer is worth more than the country's entire economy. They both contain semaglutide, mimicking a natural hormone. Ozempic helps to reduce blood sugar in people with diabetes. Wegovy is licensed for weight loss, making people feel fuller, faster. The pounds just fall away.
You can actually order it. It's about £200 a month. So I sort of considered purchasing it or going private, but I thought, no, I've paid into the NHS all my life, and I've hardly ever been in hospital. I've had no major operations at all. So I'm stuck in a kind of quandary, in a loop. I don't know what's next.
What do we know about where these drugs work?
So they're produced from the small intestine, so this is a small intestine here.
Dr. Robert Andrews is one of the country's leading weight management specialists.
The first place they work is the brain. They affect appetite and give you a feeling of fullness.
He says obesity costs the NHS £6 billion. It's linked to 200 different diseases, and half of all obese people with 3 additional problems, such as high blood pressure, will be dead within 10 years. And yet he sees stigma in NHS and government policy.
So it's about the only disease that the government blames on a person. We don't blame cancer on patients, we don't blame anything else on patients, but the government blames the patients that they're the cause of it, and it's their fault, even though a lot of things that they make decisions on cause obesity.
And he sees that even in the way the new obesity drugs are being used by the NHS. Wegovy should have been available through specialist hospital clinics since December, but Freedom of Information requests by Sky News show that by the end of April, only 14 out of 42 integrated care boards in England had officially rolled out the drug through clinics, prescribing the drug to just 838 people. That's much less than the 13,500 patients that NICE, the NHS Cost Effectiveness Authority, estimated should be receiving the drug.
It's difficult for all of us that work within the NHS. We know we have something that we can offer them, but are unable to offer it to everyone who could benefit from it. Money follows for other illnesses, but doesn't follow for this illness, and the particular illness you're dealing with. And that's really a form of bias, and seeing that within the NHS is a bit soul-destroying.
NHS England said specialist weight management services are provided based on local priorities, and it's working with the government, industry and experts to ensure that new treatments can be rolled out safely, effectively and affordably.
I used to add ice to it.
Sally gave up on the NHS providing treatment. Name a diet and she's probably been on it.
Oh, I'd tried everything, yeah. That was... And I've done shake diets more than once, but they all went the same.
Which was what?
I'd either give up, get bored with all the flavours, and then you go back to your old ways.
The weight loss clinic at the local hospital was no more effective. 18 stone and desperate, she asked her specialist nurse for Wegovy.
They said no.
Did they give a reason?
I wasn't diabetic, but I said my BMI is a tick and I've got very high blood pressure. And she blatantly said no and literally put the phone down. I was in tears. I cried at my desk because I really thought that I was going to possibly qualify for this weight loss injection.
She's seen the TikToks, people visibly shrinking on Wegovy. So she went private and hasn't looked back.
So how much have you lost?
3 stone, 4 pounds. And what I'd noticed on previous diets is I never used to feel full. I could eat a very big meal and still want more. Well, now my food is on much smaller plates, and 9 times out of 10 I don't even finish what I've got. A couple of mouthfuls and I'm satisfied. It was quite bizarre to have that full feeling that I hadn't had for 49 years. And we're taking now.
Sally says the drug is her lifeline. She keeps 2 months' supply in her fridge so she doesn't run out. Once a week, she dials in her dose to the injector.
So the penny's charged, you grab your skin. That is it.
But a month's supply costs more than £160. Her dad helps her out.
Is it worth it?
Oh, most definitely. I'm a different person.
There'll be lots of people who say, do it the hard way, do it with diet, do it with exercise, don't go for an injection.
Yeah, I've done that. Even my boss said, why would you want to be putting that drug in your body? Because I'm desperate.
We've never done anything for these people. We've never provided programmes that help them stop gaining weight. We've got to treat the problem that we didn't treat, and we've got to just man up and spend that money. And what we then got to do is put the money into making sure the environment's right. We need to make sure that food industries can't get away with cheap, poor quality food, and that the best food that you get is cheap, and stop the new problem coming.
2/3 of the population is now overweight or obese. It's the destiny for the next generation too, and they can't all be on weight loss jabs.
No, you can do the broccoli, because I know you're good at it. Yes, of course you can.
Kay's hoping for a reset, starting with her own kids. Most nights they cook from scratch.
Can you cut these smaller for me? And maybe your cucumbers smaller, but just watch your fingers. It's trying to educate them before we get to that stage. Obesity's been a pandemic way before anything else. If we can try and sort the root of it now at childhood and educate, then that is my hope, and that's what drives me. And give it a smoosh.
It's her own obesity journey that spurs her on. Her weight rose steadily from an early age. By the time she had kids, it was hard to keep up. Back then, there were no weight loss jabs. She had surgery to make her stomach smaller.
There you go.
That looks like you were in hospital. Was that just before surgery?
Just before I went down to surgery. I was 22 stone 11 at that stage. I would never dream that on my worst enemy, feeling that hatred for yourself. And then when you do ask for help, it's, well, you just eat less and move more. Or, as a GP said to me, go get a dog, start moving. It's not as easy as that. Am I missing a pudding? Of course I am.
What Kay started at home, she now takes to work. She's the catering manager for 8 schools across the north of England. Her menus feed more than 5,000 children, and they tempt hungry mouths to try something new and healthy.
It's very hard to convince some of the children to try something new.
What really didn't go well? I know it was
Leeks. Don't put leeks in the recipes.
Do you think that this is something that we just can't change?
I think we can change certain things, but we've got COVID kids.
Yes.
That we're used to eating just grab and go stuff at home, finger food at home, quick and easy food at home, and it's going to be really hard to re-educate them. We just keep trying something new. Just try it. It's free, just try it.
Can I have a roast dinner, please?
You can.
Healthy habits started young just might prevent weight gain later. Perhaps fewer will want or need jabs.
The culture and the habits that we're currently experiencing outside of schools is something that really needs to change, and it needs to change quickly. But if I can do my bit and make sure that my third of the calories that I can offer our students are the best calories that we can give them, then that's what I will do.
Ready, go!
But what about the millions of adults struggling with their weight today? Drugs like Wegovy result in weight loss of 15% or more in a matter of months.
This may be the one that is going to get me where I want to be.
The NHS is under pressure to prescribe, but can't afford the bill.
I think it reflects that we've not taken the illness seriously.
And that's forcing patients to choose, pay up themselves or join a long and lengthening queue.
My family are great. It's fantastically supportive. They can see what I'm going through. It's not good.
Well, in the last hour, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, was asked by Sophie Ridge on the Politics Hub if he has concerns that these drugs are being rolled out too slowly.
Well, I mean, look, my view on this is pretty nuanced, actually. I think that some of these drugs can be game-changing in terms of tackling obesity. Obesity is costing us 3 times the amount that smoking's costing in terms of the cost to our economy and to our nation's health. It is a challenge we've got to tackle, and in particular, I mean, Eli Lilly is a really good example of this in terms of some of their new treatments. For those people that are so obese that diet, exercise doesn't feel like it's having much of an impact, it feels like you're on a losing battle, I think the drugs can make a really big impact in terms of getting weight under control, some encouraging signs around prevention of cardiovascular disease, big killers, heart disease, heart attack, stroke, really big potential there. Where I think we just got to be careful, though, is that we don't see these drugs as an excuse not to do the right thing in terms of our diet, nutrition, exercise, or to use them as cosmetic drugs for the Instagram perfect body.
Oh, well, let's talk about this in a bit more detail. I'm joined by Dr. Mihir Sanghvi, a cardiologist and clinical research fellow at Queen Mary University of London. Dr. Sanghvi, good to have you on the programme tonight. Just listening to Thomas Moore's report there and the response from the Health Secretary, it's clear that obesity is a huge problem for the NHS, where Streeting himself said it there. It costs the NHS more in terms of, detriment to it than smoking. But it seems that the NHS can't afford to keep up with its ambition when it comes to these weight loss drugs. But the big question is, can it afford not to?
Yes, I completely agree. Obesity is really a major risk factor for a broad spectrum of diseases that we face every day in the NHS, whether that be cardiovascular disease, whether that be cancer. I think for a long time, there hasn't really been good weight loss therapy other than bariatric surgery. And all of a sudden, you have these drugs coming online, the GLP-1 receptor agonists, which are really game-changing in terms of therapy. And what we've seen is just a massive uptick in referrals, spiraling referrals to weight loss centres around the UK, and we're not able to keep up with the demand.
And a lot of people, if they can afford to, are going to private prescriptions. Is there a danger that comes with that in terms of, this is a relatively new drug? We keep hearing, as you said, the beneficial side effects, but it is relatively new to market. Is there a certain risk that involved when people have to turn to private medicine to get their hands on these weight loss drugs?
100%. So I think that the way that the current guidance is structured is for patients' benefit in terms of being seen by experts, being by a multidisciplinary team of experts, not just physicians, but dietitians, nutritionists, and so forth. And in that context, being provided with the therapy and the advice around lifestyle, exercise, diet, that can really have a positive impact. When you're clicking online to just order the drug to your doorstep, you're cutting out a number of those steps. And what's not certain is whether you've gone through the correct risk assessment to ensure that you're a good candidate. And as with any drug, all drugs come with side effects, and it's being able to be cognizant of those and making sure that you're not ignoring them and putting yourself at risk. That's something that also might fall through the net when you're taking privately prescribed drugs.
Because it's widely being seen as a miracle drug. You inject yourself once a week and the weight just drops off. Can't be that easy, can it? There must be more involved in terms of changes to diet and exercise. I'm not sure that that's being talked about a lot when people talk about these weight loss drugs, Wegovy being just one of them.
Yes, absolutely. Weight loss is not a straightforward thing to achieve, and if it were, we'd have solved the problem by now, right? So it is this whole gamut of things that you need to tackle. I suspect what is happening is that there is an impetus being provided by people who are on the drug to address other aspects of their lifestyle, and taken all together, they see the results that they do.
So in essence, it's a kickstart for the majority of people who are overweight. It's a lifeline for those who are severely obese and perhaps waiting for other surgery. But it's not a long-term measure, because, again, I'm not sure that's being made clear.
Yes, so the guidelines say that it should only be prescribed for a maximum of 2 years, and only if you see more than a certain percentage change in weight. So yeah, this is not a long-term therapy, and yeah, the kickstarting is physiological. So as well as the insulin sensitivity, the things around diabetes for which this drug was originally purposed for, it's the appetite suppression, it's the slowing of emptying of food from the stomach to making you feel fuller for longer. But all of those things, when they take together, you say, yes, I can see an improvement here. Okay, let me do more to try and accelerate my improvement in terms of my weight. And yeah, people are seeing excellent results.
And just a question with regard to people now being effectively on a wait list to get hold of this drug on the health service. Some viewers have been getting in touch on social media saying, hang on a second, is this not just like everything else in terms of a lot of people are having to wait a long time for HRT, also for ADHD medicine, because demand is outstripping supply?
Yes, I think that is a real problem, and there have been efforts by the medical community to address this. The Society of Endocrinology have recently released a position paper trying to stratify people into risk categories to determine who could, be access the drugs in the first instance, and then work our way down as we improve education, expand our services. But this is not an overnight fix, and I think it will take time to scale up the service in order to meet the current demand.
Dr. Mihir, Sanghvi, really appreciate your time on the UK Tonight this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
In other news today, a court has been hearing how the father of 10-year-old Sara Sharif called the police and admitted he killed her at their home in Surrey before fleeing to Pakistan. Irfan Sharif is on trial at the Old Bailey, accused of her murder alongside Sara's stepmother and uncle. Opening the trial, prosecutors told the court how all the defendants had played a part in a campaign of abuse that led to Sara's death. All three deny murder and causing or allowing the death of a child. Sky's Saba Chowdhury has this report.
At 10 years old, Sara Sharif had her whole life ahead of her. But all that was snatched last summer, when her bruised and lifeless body was discovered at home in Woking. Here at the Old Bailey, the jury heard that Sara was subject to brutal treatment and a campaign of abuse at home. This included bite marks, bruising, broken bones, and also burns on her buttock from an iron. Charged with Sara's murder and causing or allowing her death are her parents and family. Her father, Irfan Sharif, stepmother Binish Batul and uncle Faisal Shahzad Malik. They deny all charges and the prosecution say they're expected to blame each other. The court also heard that they left for Pakistan the day after police found Sara's body. It was there Sharif made a distress call to the police, lasting 8.5 minutes. "I've killed my daughter," he said. "I legally punished her and she died. She was naughty. I beat her up. It wasn't my intention to kill her, but I beat her up too much." He also left a note next to Sara's body. "I swear to God my intention was not to kill her, but I lost it," it read. "I'm running away because I am scared." While in Pakistan, the couple sent Sky News this video, which was referenced and played in court.
Firstly, I would like to talk about Sara. Sara's death was an incident.
But it's unclear what that meant. Weeks later, the couple eventually flew back to the UK, where they were met by police. Now they face a judge and jury over the next 6 weeks, who will hear how this tragedy, the untimely death of this young girl, was allowed to happen. Saba Chowdhury, Sky News at the Old Bailey.
Still to come on the UK Tonight, Northern Rail halts prosecutions over certain Railcard underpayments. We'll be speaking to the commuter whose case first highlighted this issue. Also coming up, Strictly struck by another setback as stars are forced to apologise for an in-joke, which went too far. Plus, we'll have the story of the lost Lionesses for you, the pioneering women's football team forgotten for 50 years.
I'm Katie Spencer and I'm Sky News' arts and entertainment correspondent. When you think of Glastonbury, it's mud you want and music. They're going to cross to us live in a minute. Okay. Thank you so much. Brad Pitt is now a prolific producer behind the scenes.
It's not a mystery to me. We always were capable of doing this.
Oh, they're wonderful children as an audience.
Who did that? Maverick here on the red carpet. I'm so excited, Tom Cruise. This is the story of the night.
It's the little independent film that could.
We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world.
Nor have I ever struck any woman in my life.
There's this illusion of power.
Are you feeling well? I remember covering the Oscars and that now infamous moment, the Will Smith slap. Nobody could quite believe that it happened. You can tell from these crowds just how excited people are for the return of Pride.
These actors playing the lead roles were born long after the Sex Pistols broke up.
Are you pleased that you did say yes to the job?
I've never regretted it.
As a team, we've interviewed some of the biggest stars in the world. It can be incredibly surreal being swept up in their world, but we try to give you an honest sense of how these people really are.
Okay, I'll talk to you.
Don't leave me!
Yeah, okay.
There's no easy goodies. There's no easy baddies.
I've had a great time here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Play Sky News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7.
Now that you're up to date, we can go into a bit more detail.
Things can change incredibly quickly.
Taken by surprise.
Have you ever known a moment like this in British politics before? Yes. Cheers.
We'll start with breaking news.
Let's get the latest on the ground.
So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better.
The most significant day of this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Tanks, heavy vehicle.
Why only in America? People want their country to work.
Just want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
Strictly Come Dancing back in the headlines following months of allegation about bullying and misconduct. The producers of this year's Strictly were hoping that the 20th anniversary series would be free of controversy. But this weekend, the show seemed to suffer a fresh setback. Opera singer Wyn Evans is a contestant, and his pro partner, Katya Jones, were forced to apologise for what they have called an inside joke during Saturday's programme. Now, as you can see here, Jones was spotted moving Evans' hand off her waist. She later refused to high-five him, leaving him to laugh off her apparent snub. All very awkward to watch. How have they explained it away after the event? Our correspondent Rachel Venables has been following this story for us today.
Well, they've called it an inside joke, they've called it a silly joke, they've called it a bad joke. I think, though, it is a joke that the audience has failed to get and to grasp.
We're not in on it.
Exactly. And they've talked about that quite a few times since Saturday night. But I think it's clear when you see the footage, you can understand why the audience reacted in the way that they did, why this moment, this incident, however you want to call it, blew up on social media between Wyn Evans and his professional partner, Katya Jones. First of all, that moment when he put his hand on her waist and then his hand sort of moved around to her stomach. She sort of batted it away, looking a little uncomfortable, is how a lot of people read that moment. And then a bit later on where she seemed to ignore his requests for a high five. It led some people, certainly online, to ask if this was evidence of inappropriate behaviour. It's something that both of them have vigorously denied. She took to social media. She called it all complete nonsense.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone. It's Wyn and Cassie here. We just wanted to say we were just messing around in the auditorium on Saturday night and just want to say sorry. It was a silly joke.
Yeah, sorry.
But, like, so...
Sorry. It's actually the first time I've seen that with the sound on. It was all a bit awkward, almost as awkward as the incident itself. But...
Yeah, and I think you can see that they feel awkward about the apology almost having to address it. And that was similarly, actually, it was quite emotional from Wyn Evans this morning. He was on the BBC Radio Wales and he spoke about it as well. He said he's heartbroken. He's been heartbroken by the reaction to those moments.
It was a stupid joke that went wrong, OK? We thought it was funny. It wasn't funny. It was being totally misinterpreted. And everything's on Katya's social. She's talked about it. She's explained that it was a joke. She wasn't offended in the least. She doesn't feel uncomfortable. You know, we've got a brilliant friendship, you know, an absolutely tight friendship. And I'm sorry that if anybody was offended by it, but it was a joke. And and that's all there is. There is no real story, really.
But the problem is it has become a story, just as so many things around Strictly have done, given the year that this show has had. Katya Jones again then speaking about it on It Takes Two this evening. Again, she described it as a bad joke, as a silly joke, and she said she really can't bear to see the way that Wyn has been portrayed in all of this. But obviously this furore has swirled, and the BBC's had to put out a number of statements saying, well, they told Sky News that Wyn and Katya have confirmed that their interactions were silly jokes they had planned together and that they've apologised to anyone who may have misinterpreted them. And they also said Katya would like to clarify further that she was not offended by Wyn and was not made to feel uncomfortable in the least. We also understand that their welfare team have checked in on the pair, but that tells a story in itself because, of course, this welfare team is brand new, created this year, new people brought in by bosses at the BBC after a number of concerns and allegations around the behaviour of professional dancers. We also know that now there are chaperones in all of the training moments, in the practice sessions, and earlier this month you had the BBC apologising to the actress Amanda Abingdon. They upheld some but not all of her complaints against her professional partner last year. So it's one of those stories, issues for Strictly that just can't keep going, can't seem to catch a break, as it were. In, as you said earlier, their 20th anniversary year, they would have been hoping to move away from some of these issues.
OK, Rachel, thank you. Rachel Venables following that story for us tonight. Thank you. Still to come here on the programme, as Martyn's Law returns to Parliament, we'll speak to a tireless campaigner trying to improve the safety of venues in the wake of the Manchester bombing. His mum. Welcome back. Now, the rail company responsible for prosecuting a passenger over a £1.90 underpayment has agreed to halt future legal action for similar offences. Northern Rail may now face compensation claims if they fail to give people accused of wrongly using Railcard discounts the chance to pay the difference in their fare on the spot. Well, a Northern Rail spokesperson has told Sky News, "We understand that fares and ticketing across the railway can at times be difficult to understand, and we are reviewing our processes for ensuring compliance with ticket and railcard terms and conditions. With regard to recent reported cases involving the use of the 16 to 25 railcard with fares under £12 before 10 a.m, we are withdrawing any live cases and will also look to review anyone who has been prosecuted previously on this specific issue. We are actively engaged with government and industry to simplify fares to help customers." Well, this issue all came to light because of Sam Williamson. He joins me now. Sam, take me back to that fatal day on the train. You were caught using your rail card on a ticket that you shouldn't have been. You offered to pay the difference on the spot. What happened?
So thanks for having me on. When I offered to pay the difference on the spot, I was told that this would not be possible. I was told that it was not a penalty fare issue. So essentially, this was immediately escalated to a travel incident report. And then about a month later, I got this letter through the post from Northern saying that potentially I could be prosecuted, which is what led me to ultimately take this issue to social media. And it's all kind of blown up from there. It's received so much coverage, and I'm so thankful for the amount of support I received. And now we're actually seeing positive knock-on effects for other cases, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it went viral, I think, in essence, because so many people are infuriated about how complicated it is to buy a ticket. You just want to get from A to B at any given time of the day. You understand, you know, it's off-peak or peak. But the rules that you didn't know about your rail card were, there are all sorts of rules that you weren't aware of, almost to the point of, you know, if the sun is rising in the east at that time of day. Were you aware of this specific rule when you used your rail card that morning?
No, absolutely not. When I used my rail card that morning, I thought that essentially the reason I hadn't been able to buy it for that specific service on the app was just a technical error. I'd used the rail card on this same service in August. Simply put, the T's and C's applied to the 1625 rail card are really excessively onerous, and I think they need to be simplified at the very least, or even scrapped altogether.
Yeah, simplified, but also Northern Rail broke rules, didn't they? Because anyone travelling with a rail card on the wrong train must be offered the chance to pay back the difference on the spot, which you volunteered to do, and that is part of the rules. And the problem here is that Northern Rail were actually taking people to court over this. And unlike when you get a speeding fine, you might get a couple of points or a fine, you can actually get a criminal record.
Yeah, again, I think that, frankly, these kind of cases regarding railcard misuse before 10 a.m. should never have been going to court in the first place. Whilst I'm very glad that we are seeing Northern scrap any potential future cases going to prosecution, that's a great start. I think it is equally urgent that we review the previous cases and make sure that people get justice, get some of these convictions overturned, and ideally also receive some financial compensation, because people were on the hook for hundreds in fines, which is really significant and, again, completely out of proportion with the difference in fares.
You know, just looking at social media today, just out of interest, because there's always issues with the railways and people take to social media like you to complain about them, because that's using your voice, because the rail companies say, we get it, it's complicated, it's expensive, we're working to fix it, but it's moving slowly. And somebody was looking at a train from London to Manchester. It was over £400. They said I could drive an old banger to get to Manchester for that. And the irony is you were on the train coming down to take your driving test, weren't you?
Yeah, ironically enough, because when I tried to get some bookings in August, Greater Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds, all sort of nearby, just completely booked up till October. So, yeah.
Probably because the railways are such a mess and so expensive half the time. Just in terms of, you know, you do use the trains. Did you pass your driving test, by the way?
I did indeed pass my theory, yes.
Excellent. Well, up until that point, you used the trains quite a lot. What was your experience of buying a ticket? Because I commute in by train fairly regularly, and depending what time of the day it is, the train could be arriving at 9:14, but the rules don't change until 9:15, and it really bugs me that, you know, just 1 minute my ticket's more expensive and you spend time at the ticket office trying to get the cheapest option, split fares, etc. What's your experience like?
So I think my main problem with currently the ticketing is that it's just such a big patchwork of operators. And usually I always find it's easiest to book direct, particularly because whenever you need delay repay, unfortunately, I used to get the cross country to Oxford quite a bit, and that was always delayed, it felt like. And it creates this whole messy patchwork of everyone has different rules and everyone has a different platform to buy tickets. And I really hope that we could get something more unified and a bit stronger and more sensible.
Well, you are a consumer champion now. What's next? You're not going to leave it here, are you? I feel like you've got a voice. You've got a big audience about this. You could take this further, couldn't you? This could be your new thing.
Well, I'm very much, for now, just focused on this issue, particularly seeing it through till the end and making sure that Northern and any other train operating companies follow through with their word in regards to previous convictions. But again, I think the Department for Transport say that they're looking at wholesale reform of ticketing, and if they ever happen to want the opinions on it, my inbox is always open.
Hey, well, listen, really good to talk to you. I'm glad that you got this change, not only for yourself, but for others as well. That's so important. So many people who, wouldn't have taken it as far as you did, and, how daunting to have to go to court, for a couple of quid difference. Really good to talk to you. I understand that you are about to get on a plane. I hope that goes smoothly and your ticket's in order. Really good to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now the Prime Minister has told business leaders now is the time to back Britain, as he promised to cut regulatory red tape. Sir Keir Starmer was addressing an international investment summit in London, but the build-up had been overshadowed by a row with P&O Ferries owner DP World, who were unhappy with criticism from within the Cabinet over the way that they do business. Our business and economics correspondent Paul Kelso takes up the story.
In the historic heart of the City of London, investors from around the world gathered to hear the hard sell from a Prime Minister having a hard time.
Today we're pursuing a different ambition, a shared ambition: growth. You have to grow your business, and I have to grow my country.
Ministers were out in force after preparations had been knocked off course by the Transport Secretary, calling for a boycott of P&O Ferries, just as its parent company was planning a £1 billion investment, a deal only confirmed by its chairman as the summit began. An obvious question then for the Chancellor.
Would you get on a P&O ferry?
I wouldn't have any problems with getting on a P&O ferry, and I think it's really important that we've secured this investment for Britain.
Rachel Reeves needs plenty more like it to deliver on her plans, but with the budget just over a fortnight away, might these same investors soon be asked to bail out the public finances too?
You're asking for investment today, you're making the case for Britain, but are you not also looking at that room and thinking, I can shake these people upside down for tax revenue, capital gains tax, increases in employer national insurance? They're actually going to be slapped with a load of taxes not long after they're out of the door.
Well, the precondition for bringing investment into Britain is to bring stability back to Britain. And what so many businesses say to me, not just today, but whenever I meet them, is that over the last few years, the lack of stability around policy making, the lack of stability in our financial and fiscal position as a country deterred investment in Britain. And so I know what businesses want to see in the budget is bringing that stability back to the UK economy.
The government has invested a significant chunk of its political capital in an unashamed pitch for the hard cash it needs to deliver on its programme. But the row over P&O demonstrates that whether it's workers' rights reforms that might add costs to business or the need to rebuild the public finances, every decision comes with trade-offs.
The NHS is among them. Life sciences a priority of a new industrial strategy and reform on the table. Welcome news for this US drugs giant.
Is the UK still an attractive place to invest?
Well, I think in our industry it had sort of lost its luster over the last half decade. New government's in, they're saying the right things.
Prime Minister, can you travel P&O ferries?
The Prime Minister presumably thinks a claimed £60 billion in committed investment answer enough on a day that ended with a royal reception at St Paul's. A rare example of the moneylenders being thrown into the temple by a government hoping the pomp pays off. Paul Kelso, Sky News.
Still to come on the UK Tonight, we'll be joined by Olympian Gail Ems to talk about her new book on her mum and the rest of the lost Lionesses. Plus in the sport, a big boost for England ahead of the second test against Pakistan as their talismanic captain makes a return.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling. War, unrest, revolutions.
It's not his country, it's ours, and we're going to take it back.
They have succeeded for the first time in their country's history in removing a leader from power. Now, freedom! There was fighting here, but there's clearly now a lull, and they're using it to bring up more ammunition. We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world. This is a mass exodus in which Russia is hemorrhaging some of its brightest and its best. According to the local weather channel, there have been more than 2,500 lightning strikes, torrential rain and flash flooding, all on top of this week's lethal tornado. What stays with you most in this job is some of the people you meet. What is your worst fear about what the Russians want to do to the children?
They're just boosting demographics by stealing young people.
Would you like to take the opportunity, Mr. President, on Sky News to invite Barack Obama to come here? Mr. Trump, are you running for president? Can you confirm it?
We're going to take a look, a very serious look.
On that day, we saw your fighters killing women, killing children. Was that a mistake? Did you go too far? You couldn't control your fighters? The full force of the state is being used to crush any protest. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued with its ultimatum to the people of Ashkelon, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in. Another alarm. The mood here is jittery and nervous. We're seeing the world get more and more divided, and it's our job to try to make sense of it all.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts watching us live.
I'm live in Jerusalem.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
Hello, welcome back. Still to come, we'll be finding out more about the lost Lionesses, the England women's football team shunned for decades for being the first team to take part in the first Women's World Cup. Such a great story. Looking forward to chatting about that with the Olympian Gail Ems. But first, David Garrido is here with the sport. And it's not football, it is cricket. Because after that incredible victory we were talking about here on the show, the first test against Pakistan, looking ahead to the second test, there's some really good news with the potential return of Ben Stokes.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a talisman and a great captain for England. Obviously, Ollie Pope has been minding the fort whilst Ben Stokes has been out injured. He's been... he tore his hamstring back in August, playing for the Northern Superchargers in the 100. He missed the last 4 tests, and so Pope came in, won 3, lost 1. But this is a boost, because not just of his ability to bowl and bat and field brilliantly and captain, but it's his aura. It's everything about him. And he's been really working very, very hard. I mean, you can see him in action here. He's gone through lots of rigorous workouts, high-intensity stuff, sprints, batting for long periods, bowling in the nets, as you can see here. And remember that, this is energy-sapping heat in Multan. So you've got to make sure that he is fit to cope with that, as well as just the rigours of Test cricket. So he is back. He replaces Chris Wokes. And Gus Atkinson is also rested, and Matt Potts comes in. So it's a few changes, but I think especially now with just the hectic schedule and the punishing calendar for these cricketers, they need to be rotated a little bit.
What are we thinking ahead of that second test then? Like you said, a few changes. Can they live up to what they did in the first test? Because that was phenomenal, record-breaking on so many fronts. The expectations are pretty high, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, this is their highest total since 1938, 823 for 7. And that after Pakistan had scored, more than 500 themselves.
Yeah.
So the pressure was on, and they absolutely delivered, and it was Root, and it was Brook, and it was brilliant. What's interesting about the Test straight is that they've chosen not just the same venue, but the same pitch, the same strip. And Pakistan believe that actually, insanity isn't doing the same thing over and over again and looking for a different result. They honestly do think that the conditions are going to be different. They've named more frontline spinners. They've made a lot of changes. They've dropped some big names too.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see whether the batsmen will be on top as much this time. The first 3 days, only 13 wickets fell, and then, of course, England were dominant, and then they skittled through Pakistan second time. So Pakistan will be hoping for a change of fortunes, and England will be hoping same again because of Ben Stokes.
Yes, please.
So we'll see. So international cricket very much in the spotlight at the moment, as is international football with the Nations League this evening.
This Sky News Sports Bulletin is brought to you by Vitality. Getting more people more active. Live life with Vitality.
When I joined Wigan, I needed time. You know, the first thing they asked me is to change the style of play. But I need time to change the style of play. I need time to recruit players who could play the style of play. I need time to do coaching session to improve the players. People expect you to come and then change everything like that. It doesn't work like that. When you want to play the style of play that everyone wants to play, you know, beautiful football, you need the players who can do that. As coaches or managers, we need to keep pushing. Whenever we have opportunity to do well, we have to do well, of course. But before you do well, you need the opportunity, of course.
Being the first black African to manage a professional English club, how proud are you of that? How do you reflect on that now?
Very proud. Very, very proud.
This Sky News Sports Bulletin is brought to you by Vitality.
Now, it should have been a sporting story to inspire generations of women and girls. Instead, the team that represented England at the first Women's World Cup has been airbrushed out of history, that is, until now. Gail Ems, you will know as an Olympic sports star in her own right. She has written a new book, not about herself, but about her mother, Janice Barton, Jan, and her intrepid teammates who travelled to Mexico all the way back in 1971. Now, the amateur squad was mostly made up of schoolgirls, some of them really young, 14, 15, bank clerks and telephone receptionists. Their match against host Mexico was played in front of 90,000 fans at the Azteca Stadium. But they were greeted on their return home by ridicule in the press and a ban from playing the game they loved. Well, now, more than 50 years later, the story of the lost Lionesses is finally being told, and I'm delighted to say that Gail joins me now. Hello, Gail.
Hello. Yes, it is a bonkers story, and I'm just so glad people are getting the chance to hear all about it, because every time I've said this story, people never believe me. So it's actually nice. I'm like, no, it is actually true.
I remember you talking about it and saying that, you know, you told your teacher at school, your teacher was like, don't tell tales, Gail. There's direct involvement in this because your mum was part of that team. So you grew up knowing this story and now you're sharing it in the world. Talk to me about, you know, your mum's involvement.
Yes, I grew up with a footballer as a mum. So try growing up without. I was completely knackered as a kid growing up. But she was this amazing bundle of energy. And I always used to see her in the garden doing keepy-ups constantly. And she would have this scrapbook, and my nan and granddad would come over and tell the story of how my mum went to Mexico. She played for England. And I saw these like newspaper clippings. And I just thought everyone knew about it. You know, this is part of history. It's part of sporting history. My mum was this cool footballer who represented England. And it was only when I was growing up that I realised that this story had been swept under the carpet. No, the authorities did not want people to know about it because it was unsanctioned. And so slowly I realised that actually there was a reason why my mum never taught me football. My mum never ever kicked a football with me. She used to tell me, like, what was the point of you playing, you know, me teaching you? Because there was still no pathways for girls to play football, or good enough pathways for girls to play football when I was growing up. So I feel so sad that my mum, what she went through, because she did go through a lot of abuse, and that's why she didn't teach me. So I feel so sad that she went through that, but also so proud of her and all the other girls as well. And it's all down to the manager, Harry, and his wife, June Batt, for really defying those authorities and going out there and showing that girls can do this. So I feel really proud now that I am her daughter, you know, and she's in that spotlight.
Yeah, can you talk to me about your mum Jan's fight to get there? Because, like you said, it was unsanctioned. she had to quit her job. Some of the women who were playing football didn't want to quit their job. It was quite a risky thing to do. So they had to actually go and get schoolgirls because it was in the summer holidays. Talk to me about the battle they had just to get to Mexico.
It was an insane battle. FIFA were anti this tournament as well, and they told the Mexican FA that if they held this tournament, because it was developed by a group of Italian businessmen, and they said if you host this tournament, you'll be banned from FIFA. So Mexico were like, okay, fine. So the Italian businessmen still wanted to go ahead with this tournament, and there were only 2 stadiums that weren't run by the Mexico FA, and one of them was the Azteca Stadium, but they were run by media giants. So basically, they promoted this tournament so much, put it all over the papers, all over TV, and Martini Rossi sponsored it, and they were the ones that paid for my mum and the rest of the girls to go out there. And because you're right, every time someone said, oh, I'm going to go to Mexico play football, those girls that had to ask permission to for their jobs were told no. And even some were warned by the FA as well, don't go because there'll be consequences if you do. This is not sanctioned by us. It's not what we want. Girls should not be playing football. So with all those barriers, my mum and the rest of the girls went, you know what? We don't care. We love football and we're going.
Yeah, and off they went. And, they went to the tournament, they made their mark. They didn't win it, but they came back. And rather than be celebrated, they were ignored, and even worse, when they weren't ignored, they were ridiculed.
It was really cool in the fact that it was like, oh, don't laugh. Maybe one day there'll be an Arsenal ladies. Those were the headlines. Instead of going, wow, these girls were supported, were cheered on by 90,000 people. What a huge commercial success this could be. The talent out there was insane. It was a good standard of football. So instead of celebrating this, going, you know what, we've got girls here that can play football. We can promote this. It was, no, you are banned for defying us. And each girl got between 3 and 6 month ban, and the manager Harry Back got banned for life for defying them. So again, someone who was really so supportive of women's sport just got ostracized and was told, no, that's it. You will never work in football.
How does your mum reflect on it now? Because obviously you're putting the story out there. And you're celebrating this. I mean, Serena Wiegmann actually talked about your mum's team, saying that she wanted to thank the 1971 team because they were the pioneers, and without them, we'd never have got to where we are in the women's game. And also, I love the fact that your mum said not many people have scored at the Azteca Stadium. I got 2. I'm second on the list behind Gary Lineker, who got 3 there in 1986. Go on, Jan.
I know, it's so cool. I mean, 19-year-old centre forward has got 2 goals in that stadium. You know what? What I'm so proud now is that these girls can talk about it. They parked it, they were shamed, they were told, don't be silly, no one believes you, don't talk about that. The story was swept under the carpet. All these things. Most of the women basically blanked it from their minds. They thought it was a dream. And so it's so nice. Honestly, it's so nice now. They've all reunited and they all get together and they've got exactly the same roles and they're all chatting about football. So it's so, so lovely. And I'm so proud of all of them.
Well, Gail, well done for bringing your mum and her teammate's story out into the open. Send her our love. What a woman your mum is. And obviously passing on the genes to you, Olympian in badminton. Leaving the football to your mum, I like it. Gail Ems, thank you so much. Right, we'll see you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Thanks for watching.